Now, believe it or not, there's a lot of times we access through a bedding area to get into a stand location. And you might think that's counterintuitive to spooking deer, and why would you do that? But you know, a lot of times, a lot of our favorite mature buck hunting, where it's the oldest buck in the neighborhood, takes place in the morning. And so we're accessing through morning hours to get into a stand location that relates to a bedding area. I'm going to tell you how that works. You know, this is a great example of that, where this road I'm on right here, I've already got it planted in some rye, a cover crop. We'll have our Green Max traffic blend growing in here. You can see little bits of clover, but this will be coming in lawn, almost like a lawn where we can actually mow it. So we can mow this location, keep it short. We'll mow it right before the season begins and get out of here. We can mow it, say 2 weeks before the season begins. So it's a nice, low, lush crop. We're not planting a food source in here that comes up around our knees and lets us leave a lot of scent in here. We can come in actually with the quiet cats through here. We can come in, we can park right over here. We go up a little bit over and come in right here. Walking wise, I would estimate this is about a half-hour walk in, but it's not going up a lot of elevation, so pretty easy. And in the morning when we're coming in, we're going through a lot of area that is low and 2-track, so that we can get in and out without spooking deer leaving a scent trail. They're not going to hit this an hour later and know that we're here. We spray down our boots, we keep our legs clean, and what I found is we can get in and out without deer knowing we're here. Even the oldest buck here, oldest doe, they're not going to pick us off. So that's one aspect. The other aspect, when we come in on a trail system like this, we're not walking anywhere near food. All the food is up high, and we do walk through a small pass-through plot that's down to the bottom over here, but the deer aren't there until it gets after daylight. Remember, all these deer are up in the fields or up in the edges, up in major food plots at daybreak, and then they're circling down to their bedding areas. So when we hunt an area like this, it's bedding area related, we don't expect to see deer for at least an hour, and that sweet spot is probably 9 to 11, more mid-morning when they're coming back into these bedding areas and really on the prowl and cruise. Because we don't have a lot of pressure, when you have a lot of pressure, you might find you see a lot of mature bucks more midday, 11 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe the peak of the rut where they're moving all day. But for the most part, that morning time during the rut is really hot. We see it tail off around these parts. Minnesota, where we've hunted, Wisconsin, because there's not a huge amount of pressure. There's a lot of people, but because of the hills, a lot of these areas have some dead spots where hunters just don't like going into. And so that gives us a lot of dead spots to hunt. And in that case, especially because of the hills around here and keeping people out, then we really see that sweet spot 9 to 11. By 11:30, it really starts tailing off. So we're coming in here at a time when the deer are not here in any way. Helps us get into this location. And in a case like this, we have this big cottonwood, more like a middle-aged tree right back here. It's about a 20-yard shot to this lane. And below that cottonwood, it's super steep. Something we can't climb back up. It goes down to an old creek system that's actually running with some spring water. That pinches down right here, and this is really cool because the hillside pinches down right here too. And then we have a big built bedding area here. So we can actually come through, this is all bedding, this lower area, and then it widens out right here on the end and into a bedding area that we've created with a lot of hinge cuts and box elder. And then this narrows down, it starts to get wider on the lower side down here. So deer can actually come up along this low edge, come up along the low edge down there, and we're right at this pinch point. It's the narrowest spot to this trail right here. Really good setup. So we have a stand here with light north winds we can use, and it keeps the scent down below. We can also use as an all-day sit morning. And then we can wrap around and get up top of this bedding area by wrapping around, going right through this bedding. You can see some of our hinge cuts up here. And then get on the top side of that with heavy northwest winds that come over the ridge into our face and up. So bottom line is, it doesn't matter if it's flat or hilly, you get into these stand locations, get your wind blowing out away from this movement, and that's how we're hunting bedding areas. Now after we sit, I feel like this one right here, and I think Dylan was agreeing too, this is more of an all-day sit. Because once we get in here, we'd have to wrap around the bedding area to get out, or go through all the way through the bedding area here, which is a few hundred yards of bedding area that we'd have to go through. I feel comfortable about going through there under the cover of darkness, but not during daylight. What that means is that once we're sitting here in the morning, it's an all-day sit, and then after dark, we can go directly out back the same way we came in. If we sit in this stand above the bedding area, it's very open timber. going out and up to the fields. I feel like we can hunt there in the morning and get out, get picked up on the fields above, and then get brought back to the truck over here, all the way around the neighborhood. So that's a case where we use a lot of bedding road access. We might go in one way in the afternoon, but we'll walk right through a bedding area to get out. Even if there's not a road system like this, it's pretty advantageous after dark, because these deer that use this bedding area won't be back in till morning tomorrow, at earliest daybreak usually. They're not down here during the dark. If you set your property up, that's a different story altogether too. If you're not spooking out your food sources, you're not spooking out your bedding areas, deer utilize your property during the daylight, not at night. If you see more than half your mature bucks after dark, meaning outside of within an hour of shooting hours, you know, they're more at, it's getting dark at 6, you're seeing them at 9 through 4 in the morning, then you're doing a good job. If you see those bucks in the middle of the night, you're not doing a good job. You're spooking out your property. So we're hunting daylight deer. So that's a big difference here too. But I can walk through a bedding area, even if there's no trail with low grass where we're not leaving a scent, I can walk right through the middle of that bedding area, because those deer aren't going to come back for a good 9 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours even in some cases. So in that manner, I'm accessing through areas where deer aren't when they're not there. Hey guys, sorry for the interruption, but I wanted to let you know about a really good deal Ghillie Blinds have with Redneck. They're $100 off. We found this is a great spot for turkey right here and summer buck scouting, but this habitat changes. We can move this, it's on a sled. We'll get it to a new spot for the fall. It's a great tool for your hunting arsenal. Make sure you check out the deal. $100 off, link in the description. Now back to the video. So that's how a couple of different ways we're using bedding areas. Whether we're coming in the morning, we're not leaving a lot of scent because it's low and lush and we're getting through. And why we might come in one way in the morning, go out a different way after dark. We do that a lot, or go in one way in the afternoon. We'll use the bedding area to walk through after dark because we're not going to be in there for many hours. And don't be afraid to access through bedding areas. Just you access through bedding areas when they're not there. The problem is bedding areas, when they're thick, there's a lot of cover. If you have a nocturnal property where you're spooking out your food sources and deer aren't coming onto your property until after dark, you might find your bedding areas are used more after dark than during the daylight. That's not a good thing. Make sure you're setting up, following the features that we talk about on the channel here, the concepts that I've used for 20 years on client properties, and apply them. And I want to finish this by talking about digital land management. That's a new digital platform that we developed through whitetailstrategy.com. It's putting all these concepts into your land. You give us a lot of inputs. We give you the outputs of where you should hunt bucks, does, hunt certain stands during morning time, afternoon time. If you take a food plot, add it to this area, how it destroys the area. Or you take a food plot and add it to another area, how it helps it. You can actually play around with that. You can use it on multiple properties for your many different properties. It's all how much you want to work and put and give us those inputs. We'll give them back to you, public or private land. But bottom line is, know how everything fits on your property, make it a daylight property, and that opens up your bedding area use because you're accessing through these areas when the deer aren't there. And that's a key to any access during hunting season. It'll give you a lot of success for decades to come.